Welcome back to my channel, baddies. Guess what we're making today? You guessed it. We're making our own Mickey ears. Look at these. I made them. And all I used was a hot glue gun. We do not have to sew, although one of you sweet angels did send me a sewing machine. So we will be sewing soon, but I promise you're gonna learn along with me. So we're gonna be okay. It's gonna be fun. Guys, are they not beautiful? Not to toot my own horn, but sometimes you just gotta toodle too. Look at that. That is insane. I love them so much. I love them so much. You know what? Let me stop talking. Let's get into it, okay? Let's get into the tutorial. If you make these, please post them on Instagram and please tag me. I want to see your beautiful creations. I'm dying to see your Mickey ears, okay? Do we like hashtag baddie ears or something? I don't know. We'll have to think of something. But anyway, please like us and subscribe if you like my content. It helps my channel a lot. It would be an honor to be one of the first Latina crafting creators to get to 100,000 subscribers. That's a big dream of mine, a big goal of mine. I work really hard towards that every day. So please, if you enjoy my videos, like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Besitos. This is the easiest craft I have ever done. I was really nervous, but I was able to pull it off, and you're going to do amazing too. You're going to need fiber fill. You can get that at Joann. You're going to need hot glue sticks and a hot glue gun, scissors, fabric scissors that is. You're going to need a cardboard box. These little crowns are little party favors. I'm not going to use them for this set of ears, but how stinking cute to put them on another set of ears. And it was $1.99 for all of those. I picked up a brooch and some fabric. I am freaking excited, you guys. I also forgot to show you my headband. It's just a basic black headband. I picked it up at CVS, but Amazon has a pack of a whole bunch of headbands that you can get. And Hobby Lobby had these little wood rounds, and I thought to myself, dang, these are the perfect size for ears. I'm gonna be completely honest. I wish I had made the ears just a little bit bigger. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to link a Mickey ear template that I found on Etsy. I'm gonna link it in the description because those ears are just a little bit bigger than mine. I made my bow a little too big and my ears just a little too small. I still absolutely adored the outcome, and they look beautiful next to all my other ears. I just wish my ears would have been a little bit bigger. So I will put a template for you. Now I am going to go ahead and just cut these out of cardboard. That's one thing that I cannot get over is how freaking cheap the supplies to make these ears were. I mean, that headband I got at CVS was like $2. I'm using cardboard. I bought a quarter of fabric from Joann for, what's it called? Velour fabric. And I didn't even use half of a quarter. I mean, it takes such little fabric. So you could just go buy a whole bunch of different samples of fabric and make all sorts of combinations. So what you're going to need is you're going to need 4 circle cutouts. Okay. Now you want to keep them the same size and you want to try to keep them as round as possible. You can get away with a few imperfections here and there because you are going to cover everything in fabric. But for the most part, you want the circles to be as close in size as possible. Now here's a pair of Mickey ears that I actually got at Disney World. I don't want you to think I made those with the sarape bow because I did not make them. However, I'm confident that together we can make them. So if you want me to make more ears and teach you different designs, let me know in the comments because I would be happy to continue to make different Disney ears. We can do rhinestones. We could even do some sculpting for our ears. Anyway, let me know what you guys think because I am definitely obsessed with making ears, and this is not going to be my only pair that I make. All right, so as you saw me doing just a minute ago, I was measuring the 2 ears against the headband, and so I was able to mark with my marker where the ears are going to meet the headband, and this is where I'm going to glue the cardboard to the top of the headband. So I'm just cutting that off so that they can fit like puzzle pieces. Now, a very important tip is to pay attention to the placement of your ears. If you look at that other headband that I was just holding, the ears are not necessarily at the top, they're more off to the sides. That's what we want to make sure that we do. So just be cautious of that. Now, this is a really good way for you to measure your headband. I cannot find my tape measure. I swear it ran away. So I decided to just roll my headband, and that way I would know exactly how long of a piece of fabric to cut. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I wish I had gone with a more simple like cotton fabric for my first set of ears, maybe like a flannel. I'm not really sure, but this velour, I mean, it's just beautiful fabric, but it was very slippery, if that makes any sense. So I don't feel like it was the easiest fabric to work with for my first time, but I was able to pull it off. I freaking love the outcome, guys. I can't even believe I made these ears. So what you're going to do first is you're going to measure the width of your fabric with your headband, because you want to overlap the 2 pieces that meet inside of the headband. So you need to make sure that it's not super thick where it's going to go around the headband twice. That's going to make it too bulky. So once you have the fabric cut to a good size, you want to start off by hot gluing a little bit of fabric on one end of the headband and fold it over and just kind of hold it until it dries, because you're going to need to pull that fabric and stretch it a little bit, and you don't want it to come off of your headband. I was just making sure here that I had enough fabric for the whole headband before I started. And then what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting a tiny little bit of the excess on the edges so that I can fold it over and not have it be super bulky at the end. And then I just kind of started doing little sections at a time and making sure that when the glue wasn't burning hot, I could push it down with my fingers. And then as I continued to go along the headband, I would go on one side and I would place a little bit of hot glue. And then with my fingers, I would press and pull the fabric to get it to stick. And then obviously we're going to go ahead and do a little bit, and then we're going to go on the opposite side, place a little bit of glue, and then we're going to fold that other flap of fabric over on top of the fabric that we already have. And this was why it was important to measure your fabric so you didn't have a super thick piece, because you do not want your fabric to have to wrap over or around your headband multiple times, or else it's going to be super bulky. So hopefully I did a good job of explaining that, and hopefully the fact that you're able to see it as I'm doing it makes it easy for you. I think that you should gather all of your supplies and work along with me. Even if you have to pause this tutorial and go back, trust me, you are going to have so much fun. I was so sad that I had to edit and do all this other stuff, because all I wanted to do was quit on my adult responsibilities and make headbands like the whole day. I'm absolutely addicted now, and I can't stop thinking of all the different combinations I can do. I just want to keep making headbands. So I'm going to continue to repeat this process, and I'm going slow and taking my time, because even though I ended up doing a little bit of a sloppy job here and there because it was my first time, I did want to make sure that I was doing a good job and that I was going to have a long-lasting headband and something that I was actually going to be able to wear and for it to not fall apart on me. So make sure you take your time, okay? Take your time, go slow, put on some Netflix, invite some of your friends over for some snacks. If you drink, you can have a girls' night and craft. Man, this is one of those moments where I really wish I had friends that live here in the area, that I could just craft with. Like this would have been so, and of course I can do it on FaceTime, but it's just not the same as physically crafting with somebody, you know? So it's okay though. I still had a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And I loved the outcome. And now you can like make matching ears for you and your little ones. How freaking cute, right? You can also give these as gifts for Christmas or birthdays or for birthdays if people are Disney lovers. Okay, guys, so I did the same process for the entire headband. And then when I got down to the end, I cut off a little bit of the excess on the sides and then I folded it over just as I did at the beginning. And I just made sure that I pressed it down until it dried. I got a little bit sloppy towards that other end, but it's okay because we're going to cover it up with a little bit of lace and it's going to look beautiful. That's also the part that's going to go behind your ear. So don't worry too much about it. It's going to be fine and it's not even going to be noticeable. But I am pretty proud of myself. I think I did a pretty good job. Now, you can take a little bit of lace, a little bit of ribbon, and you can just hot glue it on the inside of your headband. You don't have to do this, but this just gives it a nice little finish and it does help you hide the seam. Now, I think I added my lace a little prematurely. I think I should have waited until a little bit later in the process because when I glued my hot ears onto my headband, I folded a little flap underneath the headband. And I think it would have looked a little bit nicer if I would have just waited and done my little ribbon lining at the very end and just kind of hid anything at all to give it a clean inside. But at the end of the day, these are for me and no one's going to see the inside of the headband because it's going to be on my head. But you know, if you want a super clean product, you could always wait and do the inner lining of the headband at more towards the end. And it just adds a little bit of security and seals your seams even more. So now what I'm going to do is, as I showed you just a moment ago, this is the outside of the little Mickey ears that I cut. Now I left about 1/2 inch around the entire circle. And the reason I'm making this a little bit bigger than the actual ear itself is because we're going to wrap our cardboard ears and we're going to hot glue the little excess flaps over, and I could show you better than I can tell you. So here is our inner ear, and as you can see, I've got about 1/2 inch all the way around. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of hot glue and we're going to go ahead and put our fiber filler and just kind of take a little bit and just kind of glue it so that it stays in place. I think I could have done a little bit more filler, but I was nervous to make my ears a little too puffy. I was nervous that I wasn't going to be able to, you know, pull the fabric, glue it, secure it. So I was a little bit conservative with my portions of the fiber fill, but you can definitely make them a little bit fluffier if you need to. You can even leave a little bit more excess fabric. You don't really need a whole lot, but there's definitely a little bit of room if you want to make the ear a little bit fluffy. Now, please keep in mind that this process that you see me doing here, I'm going to do this 4 times because we cut 4 circles out for our Mickey ears. And so we're going to make one side fluffy and one side flat by continuing to take the fabric, wrapping it over and gluing it down. And then in just a moment, once I have 2 halves done, you're going to see me bring them together and combine them as one. And then you're going to end up with a fluffy side on both sides of the ear. Of course, I will show you at the end some beautiful detailing that we can add to hide those seams where the ears connect. And actually, adding that little touch ended up being like one of my favorite parts of the whole ear. Look how cute that looks. It's already starting to take form. I was getting excited here. I was like, oh, you're the bomb. You're the bombdiggity.com. You're about to make some ears. Listen, Walt Disney would be proud of me. Either that or he would arrest me for making ears. I don't know. But my defense, I'm not selling them. I'm just making them for fun because A, I'm a crafter, and B, I'm a freaking Disney lover. So come on, what's the point of being a crafter if you can't make yourself a freaking pair of Mickey ears, right? Okay, now this part is very important. Do you notice how on one of the ears, I completely folded all the flaps over, and on the other ear, I left a tiny little bit of that bottom flap open? There's a specific reason I did that, and you're gonna see in a minute. Go ahead and make sure that you leave that bottom part open on one side of the ear, okay? And then go ahead and hot glue your two ears together. Now, be careful not to put the glue too close to the edge, because when you push the edges, you're going to have a lot of that hot glue leak out, and you don't want that, because even though you're going to add a little bit of detailing, you don't want that part to be messy. It'll be super obvious. So don't worry too much about that. Just put it a little towards the center and then gently squeeze it towards the edges. You know how hot glue can, if you put too much and you squeeze it, it'll go everywhere. So just be a little cautious of that. Now, of course, you're going to glue everything except for the bottom part, and make sure you hold them nice and tight together until the glue dries. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your ears and you're going to hot glue them to the headband. Now, you see me using my Disney ears as a guide so that I can know exactly where to place my ears. Since it's my first time doing it, I didn't want to eyeball it and then get it wrong. You can kind of see how the ears I made are just a little bit smaller than the ones on the concha ears. And it's okay, they still look beautiful. They're still a very good size. I just really wish I would have made them just a tiny bit bigger. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put a very generous coat of glue inside of that open area. And you're going to press it down against the headband. Now you're going to hold it with pressure until it completely dries and until it is no longer moving or it's not flopping. You want to make sure that your ear is super secure. And then see that little flap? You're going to take that piece of fabric that you left exposed and you are going to wrap it and hot glue it underneath the headband. Basically, this is just a little bit of extra security that your ears are not going to go anywhere, that it's going to be stable, it's going to keep it sturdy and in place. And it's a very important step so that you feel like your ears are secure and like they're not flopping everywhere. Now, this is one of the reasons why I told you that I think I put my ribbon on the inside of the headband just a little prematurely. If I had waited, I would have been able to add my ribbon and cover that little flap. Not a huge deal, not a huge deal, just because, like I mentioned, these ears are not for sale, they're for me, and that part goes on my head. No one's gonna see it. But if you're looking to have a little bit of a neater finish, if you want to gift these, you would definitely want to do your inner lace, your inner lining ribbon at the very end. So I'm doing a time lapse here because I'm just gonna repeat the same process again for the other side of the ear. I'm gonna leave one side unglued just a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and use my ears as a guide. I'm going to fill that little space with as much glue as I possibly can. I want enough to where it's really going to grab onto my headband, but not too much where it's going to like overflow and get all over my headband. Now, we are getting close to finishing the ears, so you don't want all sorts of hot glue seeping out everywhere and giving you kind of a messy finish. Now, you want to repeat this exact same process. You want to put that ear on the headband and you want to apply some pressure and just hold it there until it cools and it dries, until it is not budging, until you know that your ear is secure and it's not going to go anywhere. And then once you're done with that part, you're going to repeat the exact same process. You're going to take that little flap that you left, you're going to glue it under and inside of the headband just to make sure that your other ear is secure. And then once you're done with that, you're going to take another piece of fabric, whatever color you want, whatever print you want. You could even do the same fabric if you wanted to, but I really wanted my bow to be a different color. Now, I think I made my bow way too big. I got too excited. I did about, I would say 14 inches in height and 18 inches in length, in width for my fabric. And that was way too big. I think if you did a piece of fabric in like 10 inches by 10 inches or 11 inches by 11 inches, that's going to be a really good size bow. Okay, my bow was too big. Now, this part's going to be hard to explain, so watch what I'm doing carefully. I'm taking my fabric and folding one piece over and the other piece over to meet in the center. And then I'm taking the back side of it, folding it in, but not all the way to the half point, just a little bit before the half point, and then I'm taking the two inner corners and folding them down. I'm going to repeat the process on the other side, but this time I'm going to fold the flap over just a little bit over the halfway point, and I'm going to take the outer corners again and fold them in. Then I'm going to take the fabric and fold it in half, and those halves, I'm going to fold them in the opposite direction, kind of like an accordion. I know this can get confusing, so my best advice is for you to keep rewinding this part and pausing it and following along when you're making your bow. That's going to be the easiest way for you to do it. It took me quite a few tries to get this part down, but it's just so awesome to be able to make a bow without having to sew or use a sewing machine. So I'm going to go ahead and do a dot of hot glue on the back of the bow just to make it, stay in place a little bit. Then I'm going to take a little bit of ribbon and secure the bow. I wish I would have had a thinner string to tie the center of that bow in place, but I didn't. So I used my lace, which is fine because I covered the center up with fabric and a brooch. But still, it would have been nice if I would have had a little piece of string. So what I'm doing here is just doing a nice and tight knot to secure my bow. And then I'm going to cut off the little edges of the ribbon. And we're going to do one more thing to secure this bow to our headband. I cannot believe that we made such a beautiful bow. Okay, not me tooting my own horn. We made such a beautiful bow and didn't even have to sew anything. So right now I'm just kind of straightening out the little edges of the bow a little bit. Look how pretty it is. And I'm sorry that you can't see the whole set of ears. They'll come back into frame, but definitely I made my bow a little too big. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another piece of fabric. It doesn't not need to be very wide or very long at all. When you see what I'm going to do with it, you're going to kind of know how thick you need, how wide you need to make it. I'm taking a little piece of fabric and folding it into the fabric. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to take that little flap and fold it into the center to create nice and clean edges. And then I am going to take that little edge of the strip and I am going to glue it to the center of the inside of the headband. Now I want to do this with the back of the ears facing me. So whatever side of the ears you want to be the back, that's what you're going to have facing towards you. And you're going to want to just hold that there, okay? Hold it until it's dry, until it's not coming off, until it's completely secure. And then you're going to flip your ears over so that the front part of the ear is facing you now. And then you're going to set your bow in place, okay? Now you want your bow to rest on top of the headband, just in between the ears. And you're going to take that flap of fabric, you're going to wrap it down, bring it underneath that headband, and once again, you are going to glue that fabric to the bottom of the headband. You want to pull it a little tight so that it holds your bow in place. You don't want your bow to be flopping around.
So just kind of make sure you make that nice and snug. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a nice coat of, I was going to say epoxy. This is not epoxy. I'm going to do a nice little coat of hot glue and then just secure that bow. Once it's dry and once it's on there, I'm going to cut a straight line to remove the excess of the fabric. And I'm going to try to just do this as neatly as I can so that I don't have a big old flap of fabric sticking out. And then I'm just going to secure those little edges with just a very tiny bit of hot glue so that when I press down on it, I don't have glue leaking out of the sides. And that's it. That is going to secure your bow in place. I'm just going to kind of adjust it to hide the piece of ribbon underneath. And this is a, what would this be called? They have this in the section where they have the little string pearls and lace and all of that. It's just like a little piece of like, patterned rope. It's very, very beautiful. It matches the fabric of the bow. If you go into the ribbon section, they have, sequin chains, rhinestone chains, pearl chains, and a whole bunch of like different options. That's where I got this. And this is what we're going to use to finish securing our ears together, but also to hide that seam where our ears meet. Now, you want to do a pretty generous but not too thick coat of your hot glue in between the ears. The reason being is because this is the final touch on our ears. And if you do super fat coats of hot glue, when you lay that little piece of, I don't know if this is ribbon or what this would be called, but when you lay it down, you don't want any hot glue seeping out of the edges because we won't be able to hide that since this is our final product. Now, I was able to do a pretty thin yet generous enough coat so that my ribbon would stay on. I was able to do that and secure the ribbon without getting any to seep out from the sides. So it left a very nice finish. I was freaking obsessed. Now, I think I got a little bit sloppy with the back part of my bow. Just because it was my first time making Mickey ears, and I just feel like I could have been a little bit neater. And of course, people are going to see the back of my head, right? So I just took a little bit of that same lace, ribbon, whatever you want to call this, and I just kind of hid some of those yucky details in the back that, I couldn't hide. And I thought this gave the ears a very nice touch. And it just kind of pulled everything together and really made it look like not tailor-made, but you know what I mean? Like no loose ends where it looked homemade. So that's a nice little option for you if you feel like you weren't able to get a super neat job in the back. And the final touches on my ears is going to be this brooch. You saw me cutting off the little accessory parts, and all I did was hot glue it to the center. Again, be careful not to do a super huge amount of glue. You don't want it seeping out of the sides. Hold it in place until it's cool and dry, and that's it. We are all done with our ears. The possibilities for fabrics are endless. Please leave me a comment and a like. Let me know what you thought about this video. See you next time. Besitos.